la vie désirée. Il est là, il est avec nous aujourd'hui. Je vous demande un tonnerre d'applaudissements pour Monsieur Christian Kinnear.
Merci. Bonjour, merci Isabelle, tu es très gentille. C'est un grand honneur pour moi d'être ici. Et malheureusement, je ne peux pas parler en français pour ma présentation, so I will switch to English. Apologies, but thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I'm going to speak about this topic in just a moment. Perhaps to introduce myself firstly, it's not working. Oh. This is piece one of technology. This is not part of my presentation. My zapper. Boop. Mm-hmm. It's not just me, okay.
We'll start the computer.
Okay. As with all technology, if anybody is from a generation with the big computers, when you ring technical support, they say switch everything off and switch it back on. This is our tactic. I think we're going to restart. So just a moment. I'll start to introduce myself as we're bringing up the presentation. My name is Christian Kinnear. I am the head of HubSpot's business in EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa, based out of Dublin in Ireland. Maybe my accent, you can tell I am Irish. I'm going to speak a little of the topic in a moment. Before I do, I did want to take just a moment to congratulate all the organizers on this event. What an amazing venue. I feel like a rock star standing backstage. It's very exciting. But an amazing, amazing event. Very exciting to see so many of you passionate about this topic, coming along to listen to this topic today. So congratulations to all the organizers. Thank you for the invitation. My presentation today is talking about how the world has changed, and very specifically in our world of marketers, salespeople, business people in a digital world, how the buyers in our world have changed, and how those people who we rely on so much for our growth of our business have already shifted to a new place, and how we need to start thinking about moving towards that place where those buyers exist and changing our sales marketing tactics to try and match the buyer expectation of what's happening in their world. So the world has changed in a very big way. The world is always changing, of course, but in the last 5 years, even 2 years, we've seen a size of change and speed of change which we've never seen before. I won't talk about politics, culture, but we all know these things have changed on a global scale very much in lots of countries in the last number of years. Very, very significant. But we also know that technology and the technological revolution is not just changing fast, it's in fact accelerating. We're seeing more and more changes coming faster, bigger changes coming than ever we've seen before. And because of this technological change, it's having a very big impact on our buyers. So what does that mean in real terms? So the buyer today, which is you and me, we're all buyers, we all experience this in our daily lives. We all have increased technology which is driving down our threshold of acceptance, of patience. We are very frustrated very quickly. All of us in all of our lives, and all of our buyers, people in our worlds. The impact of this is that the buyer in your world who you're trying to sell to is becoming very demanding. You probably feel this, I'm sure you're seeing this. And I thought it'd be interesting to share a couple of small examples how this has impacted me personally, and I'm hoping maybe you can relate to these examples as well. So one thing was I flew here, as I say, from Ireland. Maybe some of you have traveled some distance. Maybe you've train or plane, whichever the mode of transport you took to come here. For me, it's a 2-hour flight from Dublin to Paris and a 1-hour flight across from Paris to here. And normally I'm used to, in my job, traveling to US. I have transatlantic flights. So the experience reminding me again of being in a 2-hour window on a plane where I have no Wi-Fi. I have no access. I'm not connected. I'm offline. I'm shut down. It made me itch. It made me agitated. I felt, come on, like surely today I can have 100% access always. I surely can be connected. But no, I find myself counting down the time I can arrive to the airport to switch back on my device and reconnect and feel good. So I'm starting to feel this sense of the world is not meeting my expectation. This is not convenient. One thing as a side story that was sort of interesting, I traveled with a colleague of mine, Jules Perignon. I think he's somewhere in the crowd here. He's over here. And Jules reminded me that there's a perspective we should maybe take. And it was actually on the back of a US comedian who said, don't forget you're sitting in a chair floating in the sky. And this chair is traveling hundreds of miles per hour. This is a miracle. This is a wonderful, amazing experience. This is something you should maybe consider as being a great thing. And all I could concentrate on was my Wi-Fi. So maybe, yes, there's a miracle of flight. I think I get this. But I still want my Wi-Fi. I still need it all the time. So anyway, the second thing that's happened to me recently was when I was in America. I was frustrated. And I should quickly add, I'm not frustrated by America, please, or Americans. I think there's very, very many wonderful Americans. I have a lot of good friends and colleagues in America. But there's one thing uniquely about being in America that does cause me some serious frustration, and that's in Starbucks in America, in Boston, where our headquarters is. And Starbucks is fine. The coffee is okay. The thing that frustrates me is as I go through the normal process of ordering, you can probably see where this is going. They will, of course, ask me for my name for the cup. And my name in Ireland is pronounced a little differently to here. Here it may be Christian. Excuse my accent, if that's okay. In Ireland, our pronunciation is Christian. It's more flat. Our accent is not as beautiful as yours, I understand, but it's more flat, and this is how I pronounce. So when I go to Starbucks and they ask me my name, of course, 3 minutes later, we have somebody calling out for Mr. Chin, Mr. Chris Chin, and people are looking for an Oriental man, and I step forward to take my coffee, and it's a small thing, but it's really, again, it's quite a personal thing. Please get my name correct. It's almost an insult to my individual nature. Come on, guys. And I know it happens. It happens all the time. I'm sure if some of you have names that are maybe not familiar in the US, maybe it's something similar. And that frustration, little thermometer inside me is growing, and it's coming up. It's stepping up piece by piece into my frustration is starting to bubble. And the last one I'll share with you is again, quite a recent example for me is in Ireland, we have now Amazon Echo. So they've begun to sell Amazon Echoes into Ireland. The personal assistant, if you're not familiar with it, it's a desktop or a countertop assistant. There's Google Home, there's Apple Home, and now Amazon have theirs as well. And Amazon is Alexa. Alexa is a woman. She is beautiful. She's wonderful. She's very polite. She is always friendly. She is always positive. We have an amazing relationship, myself and Alexa. Don't be worried. But Alexa is a terrible listener. She is just not good. And the example that I had here was that when I was coming to this venue, going back, we're going through Paris, and I'll need to go back and arrange some transport, some logistics in Paris. And I'm not familiar, so I thought I should try to understand how to do this. And it's a few people. So I said, hey, Alexa, how can I arrange a taxi van in Paris? And she said, absolutely, playing Joe le Taxi by Vanessa Paradis. And begins to play. So, which actually wasn't a bad thing. I was like, it's pretty cool. It reminds me of my youth. I, of course, at this point, like, Alexa, no. Please stop. The tune is cool, but it's not what I need. I'm looking for something else, and you now have me in the wrong place completely. And of course, at the end of this story, I did have that moment of realization where I think I'm having an argument and shouting at a tiny robot sitting in my kitchen. I may be going a little bit crazy too. So, almost up, I can see I have a presentation here. The one thing actually, this is a little bit of an aside, we're talking about back to core topics as marketers, as salespeople, as business people. Sure, those stories will give you some sense, and I'm sure you have many versions of this yourself, of stories where you build frustration, the small things, waiting for that report to load, where you just want it to happen 2 seconds faster, waiting for email, like all those small things. We have very little threshold of frustration, of patience, all of us. This is true of everyone. In relation to Alexa, we're good. Perfect. Merci. Okay. All right. Let me go back through Alexa. So Alexa is an interesting subtopic, maybe just to touch on. We have lots of devices are going this way. As marketers, this is not just an interesting anecdotal story, but this is actually a very fundamental part of all of our future that all of us need to start thinking very deeply about voice command user interface. We see it happening everywhere. The difference and the change that will impact all of you and all of us is the world we're used to today of desktop search, where a question gets a list of answers, and many of us are trying to find a way to be on that first page of Google search results. That's going, that is leaving, that will not be the future. The future will be voice, which means there's only one answer to a question. When you ask a voice-based user interface, you don't want Alexa to say, here are 10 options you can choose from. Let me start listing. You want Alexas to know what you're asking and also the intent of why you're asking it. You'll see in Google search today, at the top of the search results, you can switch on snippets, and it will suggest this is the best answer. So all search is going this way. As marketers, you should, of course, be conscious. You should be thinking, how can you become the answer, the single answer that all search is going to soon move towards? And we're getting there quickly. So, Alexis, she has frustrated me somewhat, and it gets me to a point where this is our reality. Buyer expectations in the world have gone through the roof. Buyer expectations are so high in everywhere, every size, shape of industry, every person, individual. We all are this buyer, and we expect so much more, which means the margin for error has gone way down. So the buyer is less forgiving. They expect, if you are providing the answer, the service, the response, the product, it needs to be perfect and fast and exactly what they want. And delays are not accepted. People have less patience. This is your buyer. This is all of us today. So this margin is going down. Any hiccup in your sales and marketing process, people will disengage, quickly move to somebody else. That's the reality of the world we're in today. So the buyer's changed, and let's dig in a little bit into the specifics of what the forces are that are making that change, and most importantly, what are the things that we can all do to get ready and address these changes and take advantage of these changes in the environment. So virtually every industry in every country is in this position of increased supply. It doesn't matter the industry you're in or which country, economic statistics will show the barrier to creating companies, the barrier to enter markets is lower. It's never been lower. So it's much easier for companies to start if they see a market is doing well, that they will enter the R&D, they go to market, the cost base. All of these things have reduced significantly in all sectors. So supply is up, which leads to our buyer having a big win. This is amazing. This is terrific for buyers. Buyers have a lot more choice. All the surveys now show that on average, a buyer today of a generic product, service, whatever it might be, we have about 15 different choices today, 15 different options. As recently as 2006, that was 4, maybe 5. So the number of options and choices that people can select from has gone up 3 times in this period. Amazing for buyers. The problem is that the demand that we receive is not keeping pace. So demand in our markets, we don't see 3-4 times demand growth. Demand is relatively flat. So we now have a disconnect. We have a difference between supply and demand, which increases competition. And I bet all of you are feeling this. I think everybody in every industry feels that it's more competitive now than it's ever been before. So we need to do something about this. And classically, the answer first is we will evolve our product or service offering. That's a pretty good tactic. And that is still true, and that's still an important thing to do. But evolving your product, given what I said a moment ago, is actually becoming less effective, and we need to be conscious. So, for example, you have a product or service doing quite well, feeling competitive pressure. Simply releasing another feature or adding another service will very short term give you some improvement. But of course, your competition see this, and they'll repeat and they'll replicate, they'll copy you straight away. So any advantage quickly disappears, brings you back to where you began from a product or service perspective. Importantly, quality of your product and service, of course, focus here. But the biggest lever that we can now pull for advantage is the second is around an exceptional experience for the buyer. Because the buying experience today is becoming less and less exceptional in all industries. There's an opportunity for us to differentiate. This, again, is not just something that's interesting for us as a competitive advantage. This is expected. All buyers now expect to have amazing experiences all of the time. Expectation is high, it's getting higher. So choosing to not do this is not just standing still, it means you're going to go backwards. So we'll talk a little bit about this in some more detail. To try and understand what that really means, because the phrase exceptional experience may be open to interpretation, open to different definitions. We could, of course, discuss it here, but as always, probably the most obvious and effective way of doing this is to actually ask buyers, talk to customers. It's a pretty good idea. We should do it always. And we did this. This is our global sales perception survey. So we run a lot of surveys globally each year. We speak to lots of buyers from different sizes of companies, different industries, different countries, and we look to understand how buyers are feeling, what's happening, what are they looking for, and we try to get some information to help inform our decisions. And you can see some of the results here in order of the top things that buyers said, this is what we need. And the number one is listen to my needs. Sounds obvious, but it's not happening. Buyers are saying people in sales and marketing roles are pretending to listen, but you don't actually hear me. You're not getting to the core of what's wrong and what I'm trying to achieve. You're trying to push your agenda quickly and trying to stop me as soon as you think I'm interested in your service or product. So listen deeply, number one, 69%. Second is relevant information. And relevant is the key point here. There is a history that we have of pushing a lot of information out to markets, almost overloading. Buyers are saying, I only want what's relevant. I only want the specific piece that's interesting to my personal, customized topic. I don't want everything. Just give me the information I need. Very important too. Third is responding in a timely manner. This is exactly to the point from earlier on. Buyers have no patience. We know that people want information, they want it right now. And if you don't provide it right now, no problem, I'll go to the next person. I need it just quickly, but also at a different timing that maybe we're used to. Buyers do not research your product and service from 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. That doesn't happen. Depending on the industry you're in, those people are at evening times, weekends, breakfast, coffee, researching, reading, looking, learning. They want information in their own way when they want it, and they want it quickly. And the last is range of options. Buyers don't want just one size to be told, we have one way, that's it. You, the buyer, need to adapt to us. They'd like different ways of interacting and engaging. They want to be able to access information, help understand the next steps they should take, and they want a variety of methods and ways of taking that journey. They don't want to be pushed into a single path or process that suits your company. They want to take their own buying journey and take whichever path is suitable for themselves. So these are the 4 primary topics. The problem that we all have, and I'm sure many of you felt, is your campaigns, if you're trying to reach this audience, can feel like this from a buyer. It is noisy. There is so much content, so many messagings, so many campaigns, so many ads, that buyers are becoming deaf to all of this because there's too much. There's too many things happening. And most importantly, buyers today have become very, very good at screening out all of this messaging so your campaigns are not getting through. We know that people are unsubscribing from email lists. We know that 40 to 50% of direct mailing piece never even gets opened. In the US, there's some interesting statistics that of the entire population of the US, which is about 320 million people, 225 million people have come on the do not phone me list. So almost all of them are saying, children aside, all the adults are saying, no longer ring me. Phone is no longer a way of contacting. Poof. People are screening out ads. They have ad blockers for pop-up. People are using DVR to fast forward the TV program to skip ads. They're getting away from all of your contact. So the old tactics that maybe worked well in the past, in a different time, with a different buyer, they need to adapt. We need to adapt and move forward to stop pushing our sales and marketing processes of how we want to sell and market to the market. And we have to think about how do they want to buy from us. And we need to move to a buyer-centric view, not a seller or marketing-centric view. So the buyer wants these 4 things. They want to be listened to, relevant information, timely manner, and the range of options. So let's convert them into something that we can take as actions on our side. How do we turn this into something actionable? So this is our version of the world from the marketer and salesperson's perspective. We need to provide personalization, we need to provide automation, and we need to provide self-service. I'm going to drill into these a little bit more and hopefully uncover some thoughts again for you to take away around these 3 topics in particular. Personalization, firstly, this again is a very human component of what we do. We're dealing with people, we're trying to reach people and connect with people, so personalization, of course, is a key component. We all are very individual. We want to feel individual. That's true since you're a small child. That never changes. We have a personality and individual nature. Thinking personalization brings your focus and conversation to the individual buyer. You're not marketing to an unknown mass of people. think of the individuals, and personalization helps with this. There's a study done in the University of Texas a couple of years ago, and they've distilled into saying personalization as a topic comes to these two factors, that we all have a desire for control. So if there is something that will affect us, will impact us, so if it's a decision to purchase something, a change to my business, a change to my role, anything that will impact me, I'd like to have some control over that. I don't want to just be affected by things outside, so I need to have some control, and if it's personal to me, it feels like that change or the impact will be acceptable. So I need to have some control, and I want to limit that information coming to me. I do not like the idea of being generalized. I want to make sure what you send to me is quite specific and unique. So these concepts are important in the next piece. So the music industry is probably a good example of where personalization has taken a very interesting journey and path and can be translated into lots of other industries that we have. A real player, you may be familiar, back in the 90s was the first digital version of having and hosting music on your desktop machine, your home computer, and was a great way to create a playlist on your home computer. That was pretty revolutionary in the 90s. That moved forward to Napster, where the thought of having it is cool, but sharing, that's even cooler. This could be much more interesting to share music with your friends. The next evolution, Apple made it legal. Okay, so Napster wasn't quite legal at the time. That was a period of our technological history. But taking it to this legal footing made artists contribute more content, brought this mainstream, and really accelerated the music industry. Pandora then came in and said, that's cool, but actually a really interesting way is to create radio-based playlists so you can share content in a much cooler, interactive way. So it's not just, let me access your list and play a song. It will actually contribute and give you that feeling of this is a radio station from your friend being broadcast. And ultimately, we end up with Spotify, even Deezer here, familiar as well, where you now have curated lists, the technology of how to curate content, how to crowdsource based on all the users as to which is likely to be your preferred choice, which kind of music you're liking, and offering those has been a really interesting evolution. So we end up in a world now where, from a music perspective, Spotify knows me. It knows that I have different moods throughout my day. It knows that in the morning time, when I'm waking up and I'm getting ready, it gives me some pop music, something I can start to feel energized, it's happy, it's feel good, it's morning time, it's getting me awake. It knows during the day, I typically need some times a little bit more quiet, where I'm working through some things, and it knows I have a classical playlist. It has some classical music to calm as some background mood. It's got some gym music, a little bit more electric techno, something that's more energized. And of course, for my car journey home is, of course, Vanessa Paradis' Greatest Hits, or something similar again. But it knows me, it understands, and it ebbs and flows with me, with my moods. And it's giving me this beautiful experience of, we will give you what you want, so you still retain full control of any of these playlists. You have that personalization concept of controlling it, but we also will limit all the noise. We're not going to send you everything. We're going to learn from you. We're going to understand your preferences, and we'll feel like this is a very personal version of what you like, and it's only presenting what's valuable to me. And we can take lots of lessons from this in lots of industries. Automation, as the next one. Sometimes we think automation, we're increasingly thinking of robots, bots, the latest technology, and a lot of things that are hitting headlines. And we'll talk a little bit about bots in a few moments. We also talk about marketing automation, and a phrase that's quite well known, and again, I'm sure very familiar to all of you. We have a session later on I'd advise you to attend, discussing marketing automation. But automation as a concept, maybe we should step a little bit further back from mechanics of how automation works in your world today. Because automation is actually thinking of subscribing to something, setting your preferences, and then letting it happen. So take marketing automation, where you might subscribe to an email nurture list of content you'd like to receive. You set your preference, and you receive it on an ongoing basis. There's a whole industry has been grown over this called subscription boxes. So the concept of that online preference has now moved to the real world, if you like, of retail. If anyone's familiar with this concept, the industry has grown 3,000% in about the last 4 years. There's tens of millions of people, and it's increasing at a rapid rate, subscribing to these subscription boxes. And there's thousands and thousands of companies offering this. If it's something you're not familiar with, this is some examples. The concept is very simple, is in relation to any one element, I'll pick the one in the middle because it's very relevant to me, the honest company. The honest company provide baby materials like nappies and creams and powder and all things you need for a baby. I have a young baby now. And the idea is that you shop once, pick the things that are relevant for you, and they will suggest and say, so you can just go, or would you like to sign up to a subscription box? And that means we'll try and predict that when you're going to need something else, and we'll start automatically just offering it to you and sending it to you. You can turn it up or turn it down. You can change that up if you want to, but we'll start to do it proactively, and we'll understand what you need so you don't have to think about your shopping list. You no longer have to be thinking ahead of, did I forget something? What else do I need to do? You're receiving boxes of information, of content, of things, items that actually are really suitable. And you can tweak and edit and change it. You no longer need to be thinking of, what did I forget? And for me, my honest company example means I don't get in trouble from my wife when we have no nappies at 3 a.m., which is a big thing. It's a big deal. But the concept of this has taken off globally. Self-service is the third. And self-service is something we all do. And again, when you're trying to understand your buyer, you are your own best example. Many of us, for travel, for entertainment, for cinema, for any of these components, we're very comfortable and increasingly comfortable accessing through self-service. We don't necessarily want to queue up to speak to somebody. We don't want to have that conversation about discussing detail. We can do it online. We can choose, select, go, and pick up our tickets. So this concept is, again, quite mature. What's very interesting comes out of our global AI survey. So we have a survey of artificial intelligence and what's happening globally. Again, big audience. We found two very interesting pieces of information came back. 47% of people said, sure, I would buy from a chatbot. No problem. Yeah, of course, no problem. 37% would buy something straight through Facebook. Surprising. We didn't think this would be happening this fast. We didn't think these numbers would be this strong. The buyer sentiment is already skyrocketing to self-service is what we want. We're very comfortable, very happy in this world of bots and Facebook and self-service ways of interacting with companies. From a bots perspective, I did promise we'd speak a little bit. We have in HubSpot our own bot. I'm embarrassed to say we call it the HubSpot bot. It's not the most creative name, I'm afraid. We should do better. But bots recently have hit a lot of media headlines where there's been a bad press, if you like, for bots. There's been talk of Russian bots affecting Twitter feeds, affecting elections, various things. But there are very many very cool and very friendly bots in the world, and increasing numbers of them. If you've ever gone to a comparison website for comparing hotels, comparing flights, these are crawler bots. They're going out, they're crawling other sites to see what information is there, bringing it back and presenting it to you. You'll have seen, of course, lots of chat bots on websites where there's somebody is coming on, it might be a human, it might not, who's offering and asking if you'd like to interact and understand some more about what's happening. And as marketers, again, this is area of bots is a very interesting one. The generational shift that's happening already and the more to come about Gen X and millennials and the buyers of the world today and the next generation of buyers are super comfortable with text-based messaging. It's how they live today. They don't necessarily want to speak to somebody, and the text doesn't have to be from a person either. So the idea of your collection of information today, and many of us are in a position of form-based data collection. We're offering cool and great content on our site. If you like it, we ask you to complete a form. That world is something that's going to shift as well. We don't know how fast and where, but bots will play a role. And today already there's lots of conversational bots that will say, great, can I get your name? Which company are you from? What are you looking for? And all the time the bot is filling in the form behind the scene. But for the buyer or prospect, it feels like a pretty cool conversation. So bots are playing a major role in the shift of how we're going to collect data from prospects as we move forward. And thinking of having a bot in your marketing strategy is an important one. Some really cool examples of self-service. In the US, Joybird is a really cool company where you can design all your own furniture, very personal, very bespoke, colors, type of wood, size, all of these things. You can design everything custom for yourself. The other one that's really interesting, actually quite personal to me, my father, for all of his professional career that I can remember, used to sell cars. He was a car salesman in Dublin. And I have a lot of memories of visiting him in his work and seeing all the paperwork, seeing all the way he worked. Buying a car is a very big thing, and it's a big investment. So the sales cycle is very long, a lot of interaction, a lot of discussion, and a lot of test driving, demonstration. Carvana have changed all of that. And if you're not familiar with Carvana, again, you go online, you design your car, you can pick all of the spec you want. You have all virtual tours, virtual reality to go and inspect the inside and outside of your car. You can look at it all and you purchase. And when you're ready to pick up your car, you get an email and say your car is ready, and there's a car vending machine. And you go, they actually send you a physical coin. It's a coin-operated machine. You walk up and put in your coin, and your car comes out. You collect your car and drive away. It's crazy. It's cool, but it's crazy. The world is changing a bunch, and self-service is here. So our buyers want a number of things. And we are thinking along these lines. The question to take away for this point is, how much are you personalizing, truly? How automated are you, and how much self-service are you offering in your process today? When your buyer wants to buy from you a certain way, are you meeting their expectation in these areas, or do you have room to improve? I think probably we all have room to improve. So there's certainly elements to take away and think a little bit more deeply of how we're fulfilling these requirements and needs on our side of the equation. So we have to change. We need to change for lots of reasons. The one that's baked into everything I'm saying is that we have to now accept the buyer has all the power. There's a world some of us may have come from where the salespeople controlled a sales process. We had the information. We could share that information as we wanted, when we wanted. We could bring somebody through our sales process. That's not true anymore. The buyer doesn't do that. They have the power. They can switch between vendors easily. There's lots more choice. We have to now start to appreciate that that's the way the world is. The other thing that's very interesting, and the corporate executive board run this survey quite frequently, they always find that somewhere in 50 to 60% of the work that's needed to purchase, so the research, the investigation, 50 to 60% of the sales process is done before they speak to a salesperson. So when you speak to somebody today, they probably have done a lot of the work already before you've even contacted them. They have the power. They can choose who to interact with and when and why. So it's changed. One of the biggest things that we'd advocate for through an inbound methodology is this concept that adding value to your prospect, to your customer, is more important than extracting value from them. In my job, I get to speak to lots of customers, prospects across lots of countries and industries based for the role in Dublin. The one thing we hear frequently is customers saying, I'd like to extract more value. Help me be more efficient at getting more value from my customer base, from my market. And honestly, it feels like almost like a wet towel that you're squeezing, trying to get more drops out of this piece of material. As a customer, how does that feel? Pretty bad. So the idea is shift from trying to take out value and appreciate that putting in value and adding value is more important. And also do it first. You have to add value before seeking to take value from your prospect. This is at the heart of inbound. Inbound is offering information that's relevant and helpful, attracting people so you can supply what they need to help them take their buyer journey, not interrupting, not pushing out on your terms, but accepting it's on the buyer's terms. Something that some of you may, again, recognize, the concept of trying to push your marketing or your sales message into a market and interrupting people's day is declining. It's becoming less and less effective. We saw from the marketing piece that message is not coming through. The problem is that many people are still, honestly, in some degree of denial. They think maybe the old method will eventually become successful again. Maybe something will change. Cross my fingers. It's not a great strategy. And the problem is, if you're pursuing that same approach of saying the return is declining, so maybe we'll just do 10 times more outbound. We should send more emails, do more cold calls. It doesn't work that way. You don't get 10 times the return. It's diminishing return. What you do is you kill your brand 10 times quicker because you're becoming very famous very quickly for an interruptive, disruptive, outbound company, service provider, whoever you are, and you're very quickly killing your business as you're accelerating more of that work. So taking a shift and taking a move is what we'd advocate, but doing that, again, is not so simple just to flick a switch. So we'll talk a little of tactics you can take and things you might be interested in looking at if to move towards an inbound world. We have 3 elements. I'll go through these one by one. Free and helpful content is the first one. Search still is key. 3.5 billion searches on Google every day. Google is still key. Search is still key. Knowing what your buyer is looking for, absolutely paramount. It's surprising the amount of companies that are still saying, we're going to rank for something we want to be famous for. We're going to go out to market with the message we would like to portray to the market. Why? Nobody cares. I'm sorry, but nobody does. You need to understand what your buyer is looking for. What do they need? What questions are they asking? And how could you be present to answer those questions, be helpful to those people for those questions? That's all that matters. As a bit of an aside, as we're on search, one thing that's changed in search as well, thinking of our new complex world, Google has changed the world of search. If you're not familiar with content clusters, pillar content pages, if these words are a little unusual to you, you should search these words and start to understand what's happening. Keywords is no longer the algorithm that Google is using. The Hummingbird algorithm is now looking for content clusters, and pillar page content is a new concept. We've started this ourselves in HubSpot. The content we've optimized for new content clusters has seen a 50% jump in visitor traffic. It's happened. It's already in Google. If you're not aware, take a note and go and check this out. You need to change your keyword search strategy to content clusters. So that's a takeaway tip. But so search is still key. And Wistia, in terms of content and helpful content, are a beautiful example of this. Wistia hosts videos, so it's a video hosting company. I'm sure you're familiar. So obviously the content they produce is video-centered content. But there's some really great examples of how to do things, how to have better post-production, how to do explainer videos, how to get better lighting for your videos. None of this is about Wistia. None of it is about hosting, about product, about service, or pricing. This is just helpful content to say, if you want to make great videos, we want to help you make great videos. This is inbound marketing. This is beautiful, simple, helpful messaging for people to get what they need to get done. Try before you buy. So from the previous, we have probably a lot of experience of offering content, but taking that a step further, that people can start to actually use this product and start to feel what it's really like in the real world is the next evolution. This is by far the best, the most effective and coolest way to get insight of what your buyers and customers want. Giving them some form of free product, trial, test, a period where they can enjoy a little of your product or service, and gathering that data will tell you a huge amount about what's important to them, what they use, what they don't use, how they interact with your product and service. This is a constant feedback loop of information that will inform your marketing and services, sales strategies. We, in our world, have often talked about that sales marketing connection. It's now sales marketing and product. There's that three parties have to blend together now in this world. And Trello is a great example. There's lots and lots of these, but this is one that's near to my own heart. I was trying to organize the various moving parts of my business life, and I found Trello. They have a free product, and it's brilliant. It is fantastic. It allows you to organize all your different items and tasks and organize your mind, keep it and share those. It's a free product. So much so that I enjoyed it. I used it a lot. I outgrew it. I wanted to do more, and I was very happy to move to the next level and start paying for some version of business class to get some more features and some more capability. And we see this all the time, lots and lots of products that are free. If you don't have an online product, think of what kind of service you might offer to get people trying, testing, and using. And last of these is the consultative sales process. The sales component of this is so vital. On our State of Inbound report each year, we always dig in to understand that relationship between sales and marketing. We consistently find the same answer every time, that companies that have a very close connection between sales and marketing, they grow year over year, on average 20% year over year. Big growth. Those that declare having a broken connection between sales and marketing, on average, decline by 4% every year. Gap widens. This is such an important piece. And for salespeople, and equally for the marketers in the room, these are pretty common sense topics. Research, making sure you know the company, the contact, the person, the individual, what makes them unique, what makes it personal for them. Through an inbound methodology, you have an advantage. There's collection all the way through the process of what that prospect has been reading, interacting with, the content that's been interesting for them. By the time you get this contact as a salesperson, you can understand a lot of their journey so far. You can make sure you're giving them just relevant information, not stuff they've already looked at. Ask and be curious, absolutely, 100%. The people you speak to may not be thinking of this topic all of the time. They're running their business. So be curious, ask great questions, uncover the story, co-discover with your prospect what's happening, what's really the issue here. And educate, educate, educate. Key for inbound selling, key for inbound marketing is always be teaching every opportunity you have to provide some insight, some education, something that's valuable for your prospect, giving them value all the time. And teaching is one of the most important things and easiest things you can do is share your knowledge, share your insights, and teach along the way during a consultative sales process. We've covered a lot of things, and apologies, it's morning time. Maybe your brain is still warming up from your coffee, but we've covered a lot of elements, and it was to give you a flavor and a taste of all the components that connect together to the core concept of inbound. And if I had to sum up all of these things, there's two really important parts jump out on this slide for me. There's the be human, and there's building trust. We are dealing with people, and it's a technologically advancing world, but it's still people, it's still humans, it's still that individual connection. So being human and building trust are key and core. So we talked earlier about the margin for error declining very sharply and being very small. Thankfully, the reverse is actually true as well. That you build trust with these tiny moments. If you can adapt how you market and sell to build trust, to create these moments of delight, these moments of wonderful experience, that exceptional moment in your process, you can build strong trust quickly with your buyer and with your customer. So turning that equation into how we can take advantage of this new buying behavior is really important. The other part we mentioned a moment ago is that this is about people. We sometimes, in our world, we're digitally online, we start to think bits and bytes, and we think of technology as being the interface and the be-all, end-all. Remember, it's humans, it's people. Have human conversation, human interaction, human behavior at the heart of everything you do. When you're talking about campaigns, when you're talking about the next way you're going to go to market, what's working, what's not, think of the people, think of the individuals. Who are they? What do they do? What do they care about? What's most important to them? And keep it human as part of that thought process. If we can do some of these things, there's a lot. But these are all things that are happening, and many companies exactly like yours are doing this already and already seeing the benefit of it. Maybe to come back to a slide that we had earlier that I didn't call out to you was that it's never been harder than it is today based on the complexity, competition, all the things we've been talking about. But maybe, just maybe, if we can take advantage of some of the things that we now know to be true and we can adapt how we go to market, that maybe we can change this dialogue to being a better time, where we're now matching buyer expectation, we're meeting them the way they want to be met, we're helping them take the buyer's journey they want to take, not pushing our agenda, and maybe we can take advantage. As a close, I would be probably lacking credibility in front of my marketing colleagues if I didn't put in a call to action, right? Every content needs a call to action, so here's mine. There is a bunch of information. If what I've described today piques your interest, if you're finding something interesting in it, we have a lot of information on this and many more on the blog. It's 100% free. There's tons of information, and our academy is absolutely free as well. You can learn a bunch of this. Go help yourself. It's all there, lots and lots of it, all free, all available. Go and help yourself. And maybe just as my final thought, just as I close, this topic frequently reminds me of a quote by Seth Godin, and he says, dig the well before you're thirsty. There's lots of variations of that, but I think the message is pretty clear. Many people in business today are saying, you know what, Christian, that's a nice presentation, but not relevant to me. I don't think we need that. I don't think we're in that position. I don't think our buyer thinks that way. Whoa, I don't think you're looking at it truly correctly. Even if you're in that industry, and I'm not sure which industry it is, but if your industry isn't affected by the things I'm describing today, it soon will be. And now's the time to start digging the well. Now's the time to get ahead of the changes that are coming. And the good news is the fact that you're all here today means you've all taken the first, and I think the most important step of being curious and having an open mind, wanting to learn, looking for options, want to understand what else is possible. You've done that. So firstly, congratulations, you're already ahead. You're ahead of your competition. You've already taken that step of advantage, which is fantastic. And maybe, I hope today, if some of my content has moved you a little bit from curious to maybe a state of realization that change has happened, change is happening, the environment has changed, buyers have changed, expectations have changed, all those components are already happening or have happened in your world, and maybe now is a good time to start thinking about the tactics you can adapt to meet those changes and take advantage of those changes. This is a huge opportunity to take advantage and accelerate your growth by meeting your buyer where they want to be met and engaging with them the way they want to be engaged with. I hope you take away to focus on your buyer, not your seller. It's not about you, it's about your buyer. I hope you think of value first. Giving value is much more important than taking value. I hope you think about being human and the importance of being human in this interaction, about building trust. And I hope you focus on being more inbound. Thank you very much indeed. Enjoy your day. Thank you.